Chapter 17. How Kriemheld mourned her husband, and how he was buried. Then they waited for the night, and crossed the Rhine. Never had heroes hunted worse. Noble maids bewept the game they slew. Forsooth, many good warriors must needs atone for this in after days. Now you may hear a tale of great overweening and dire revenge. Hagen buried, bade carry Siegfried of the Nibelungenlied, thus dead, before the bower where Kriemheld lodged. He bade place him stealthily against the door, that she might find him when she went forth before the break day to matins, which Lady Kriemheld full seldom missed through sleep. Men rang the minster bells according to their custom, and Lady Kriemheld the fair now waked her many maids, and bade them bring a light, and her vesture too. Then came a chamberlain, and found Siegfried there. He saw him red with blood, his clothes all wet. He wist not what it was his lord, but with a light in hand he hasted to the bower, and through this Lady Kriemheld learned the baneful tale. As she would set out for with her ladies for the minster, the chamberlain spake, "Pray, stay your feet. There doth lie before the chamber a knight, slain unto death." Kriemheld gan make passing sore wail, for ever she heard aught that it was her husband. She began to think of Hagen's question, of how he might protect him. Then first she suffered dole. She renounced all pleasure at his death. To the earth she sank, not a word she spake. Then where they found lying the hapless fair, passing great grew Kriemhild's woe. After her faint she shrieked, that all the chamber rang. Then her meanie said, "Perchance it is a stranger knight." The blood gushed from her mouth, from dole of heart she spake, "'Tis Siegfried, mine own dear husband. Brunhild hath counselled this, and Hagen hath done the deed." The lady bade them lead her to where the hero lay. With her white hand she raised his head, and though 'twas red with blood she knew him soon. There lay the hero of the Nibelungenlied in piteous guise. The gracious queen cried sadly, "O woe is me of my sorrow! Thy shield is not carved with swords. Thou liest murdered here. Wist I who hath done this deed, I'd have plot his death." All her maids made mourn, and wailed with their dear lady, for they grieved full sore for their noble lord whom they had lost. Hagen had cruelly avenged the wrath of Brunhild. Then spake the grief-stricken dame, "Go now, and wake with haste all Siegfried's men. Tell Sigmund also of my grief. Mayhap he'll help me bewail brave Siegfried." A messenger ran quickly to waylay Siegfried's warriors from the Nibelungenlied, and with his baleful tidings stole their joy. They could scarce believe it, till they heard the weeping. Right soon the messenger came to where the king did lie. Sigmund, the lord, was not asleep. I trow his heart to tell him what had happened, and never again might he see his dear son alive. "Awake, Sir Sigmund. Kriemheld, my lady, bade me go to fetch you. A wrong hath been done her that doth cut her to the heart, more than all other ills. You must help her mourn, for much it doth concern you." Sigmund sat up, and spake, "What are fair Kriemhild's ills, of which that thou tellest me?" Weeping, messenger spake, "I cannot hide them from you. Alas, Siegfried of Netherland is slain." Quoth Sigmund, "For my sake let be this jesting, and such an evil tale, that thou should tell any that he be dead, for I might never bewail him fully before my death. If you will believe not of what ye hear me say, then you may hear yourself, Kriemheld, and all her maids, wailing Siegfried's death." Sigmund was then sore frighted, as indeed he had great need. He and 100 of his men sprang from their beds, and grasped with their hands their long sharp swords. In sorrow they ran toward sound of wail. Then come 1,000 men-at-arms. Bold Siegfried's men, when they heard the ladies wail so pitifully, some first grew ware that they should dress them. Forsooth they lost their wits for very sorrow. Great heaviness was buried in their hearts. Then King Sigmund came to where he found Kriemheld, and spake, "Alas, for the journey hither to this land, who hath so foully bereft me of my child, and you your husband among such good friends?" "Oh, if I knew him," spoke the noble wife, "whether my heart nor soul would ever wish him well, I would plan such ill against him that his kin must ever weep because of me." Around the prince Lord Sigmund threw his arms. So great grew the sorrow of his kin, that the palace, the hall, and the town of Worms resounded from the mighty wail and weeping. None might now comfort Siegfried's wife. They stripped off clothes from his fair body. They washed his wounds and laid him on the bier. Woe were his people from their mighty grief. Then spake his warriors from the Nibelungenlied. Our hands be ever ready to avenge him. He liveth in this castle who hath done the deed. All of Siegfried's men hastened then to arms. These chosen knights came with their shields, 1100 men at arms, whom Lord Sigmund had in his troop. He would fain avenge the death of son, as indeed he had great need. They wist not to whom they should address their strife, unless it be to Gunther and his men, with whom Lord Siegfried had ridden to the hunt. Kriemheld saw them then armed, which rued her sore. However great her grief and how dire her need, yet she did so mightily fear the death of the Nibelungs at the hands of her brother's liegemen, that she tried to hinder it. In kindly wise she warned them, as kinsmen do to loving kin. The grief-stricken woman spoke. My lord Sigmund, what will ye do? Ye wot not aught, forsooth King Gunther hath so many valiant men. Ye all will be lost, and ye would counter those knights. With their shields uncovered, their men stood eager for the fight. The noble queen both begged and bade that the lusty knights avoid it. When they would not give it over, sorely it grieved her. She spake, Lord Sigmund, ye must let it be until more fitting time. Then I'll avenge my husband with you, and I receiveth proof who hath bereft me of him. I will do him scathy. There be too many haughty warriors by the Rhine. Wherefore I will not counsel you to fight. They have full well 30 men to each of ours. Now God speed them as they deserve of us. Stay ye here and bear with me my dole. When it beginneth to dawn, help me, ye lusty knights, to coffin dear husband of mine. Quoth the knights, that shall be done. None might tell you all the marvel of knights and ladies, how they were heard to wail, so that even in the town men mocked the sound of weeping. The noble burghers hasted hither, with their guests they wept, for they too were sore grieved. None had told them of any guilt of Siegfried, or for what cause the noble warrior had lost his life. The wives of worthy burghers wept with ladies of the court. Men bade smiths haste to work a coffin of silver and of gold, mickle and strong, then make it firm with stripes of good hard steel. Sad of heart were all the folk. The night was gone. Men say the day was dawning. Then the noble lady bade them bear Lord Siegfried, her loved husband, to the minster. Whatever friends he had there were seen weeping as they went. Many bells were ringing as they brought him to the church. On every side one heard the chant of many priests. Then came King Gunther and his men, and Kriemheld also toward the sound of wail. He spake, Alas for thy wrongs, clear sister, that we not be free from this great scathe. We must ever lament for Siegfried's death. That ye do without cause, spake the sorrow-laden wife. Were this loth to you, it never would have happened. I may well aver ye thought not on me, when I was thus parted from my dear husband. Would to God, quoth Kriemheld, that it had happened to me. Firmly they made denial, and Kriemheld again spoke. Whoso declareth him guiltless, let him show that now he must walk to bear before all the folk, thereby one may know the truth of soon. This is great marvel, which oft doth hap, whenever the blood-stained murderer is seen to stand by dead, the latter's wounds do bleed, has indeed happened here, whereby one saw the guilt was Hagen's. The wounds bled sore, as they had done at first, much greater grew the weeping of those who wailed afore. Then spake King Gunther, and how you know that robbers slew him, Hagen did not do this deed. I know those robbers well, quoth she. Now may God ye let his friends avenge it. Certes, Gunther and Hagen, 'twas done by you. Siegfried's knights were now bent on strife. Then Kriemheld spoke again. Now share with me this grief. Gernot her brother, and young Grishild, those twain now came to where they found him dead. They mourned him truly with the others, and Kriemhild's men wept inly. Now should mass be sung, so on every side, men, wives, and children did hie then to the minster. Even those who might lightly bear his loss, wept then for Siegfried. Gernot and Gisler spake, Sister mine, now comfort thee after this death, as needs must be. We'll try to make it up to thee whilst we live. Yet none in the world might give her comfort. His coffin was already well towards midday. From the bier whereon he lay they pressed him. The lady would not have that he be buried, so that all the folk had mickle trouble. In a rich cloth of silk they wound the dead. I win, men found none that there did not weep. Uta, noble dame, and all her mindly mourn bittered the stately man. When it was noised abroad, the men sang in minster, and had encoffined him. Then rose a great press of folk. What offerings they made for his soul's sake! He had good friends enow among these foes. Poor Kriemheld spake to her chamberlains, Ye must now be put to trouble for my sake, ye who wished him well, and be my friends. For Siegfried's soul shall ye dwell out his gold. No child, however small, that had its wits, but must go to service, or ever he was buried. Better than 100 masses were sung that day. Great throng was there of Siegfried's friends. When that mass was sung, the folk went hence. Then Lady Kriemheld spake, Pray let me not hold vigil over the chosen knight this night alone. With him all my joys have come to fall. I will let him lie in state 3 days and nights, until I sake me with my dear lord. What if God doth bid that death should take me too? Then he had ended well the grief of me, poor Kriemheld. The people of the town returned now to their lodgings, and she begged the priest and monks and all his retinue that served the night to stay. They spent full evil nights and toilsome days, and many a man remained without all food and drink. For those who would partake, it was made known that men would give him them to full. This Sir Sigmund purveyed. Then were the Nibelungs made acquaint with mickle toil. During 3 days, as we had tell, those who knew him how to sing were made to pay a deal of work. What offerings men brought them! Those who were very poor grew richer now. Whatever of poor men there were that which had not, those were bade to go to mass with gold from Siegfried's treasure chamber. Since he might not live, many 1,000 marks of gold were given for his soul. She dealt out well-tilled lands, wherever cloisters and pious folk were found. Enow of gold and silver was given to the poor. By her deed she showed that she did love him fondly. Upon the 3rd morning it came to mass. The broad churchyard by the minster was full of weeping country folk. They served him after death, as one should do to loving kin. In the 4 days, as hath been told, full 30,000 marks, or better still, were given to the poor for his soul's sake. Yet his great beauty and his life lay low. When God had been served and the chants were ended, much people fought 'gainst monstrous grief. Men bade bear him from the minster of the grave. Those were seen to weep and wail who missed him most. With the loud laments the people followed hence. None was merry, neither wife nor man. They sang and read a service for the buried him. Oh, what good priests were present at his burial, ere Siegfried's wife was come to grave. Her hearthful heart was wrung with grief, so that they must needs oft sprinkle her with water from the spring. Her pain was passing great, a mickle wonder it was that she ever lived. Many a lady helped her in her plaint. Then spake the queen, Ye men of Siegfried, be your mighty, lest ye prove your love to me. Let me receive this little favour with all my woe, that I may see once more his comely head. She begged so long, with grief's strong will, that they must needs break upon the lordly casket. Then men brought the lady to where he lay. With her white hand she raised his fair head, and kissed the noble knight in good. Thus dead. Tears of blood her bright eyes wept from grief. Then there happened a piteous parting. Men bare her hence. She would not walk, and soon they found the high-born lady lying senseless. Fain would the lovely fair had died of grief. When they had now buried the noble lord, those who were come with him from Nibelungenland were seen to suffer from unmeasured grief. Men found Sigmund full seldom merry then. They were there thus they for 3 days, and would neither eat nor drink for passing grief. Yet might they not so waste away their bodies, but that they recovered from the sorrow, has still happened oft enough.